I just love how heavy and gnarly this song sounds. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I am Molly, and in this video I'm going to be listening to the album Short Bus by Filter. Now, a lot of you down in the comments for a while now have been suggesting that I check Filter out, that they're a great industrial rock band. So I figured I would start off with their debut album Short Bus that they released in 1995, and yeah, just see what I'm going to think of Filter. So starting this album off is track 1, which is called Hey Man, Nice Shot.
I wish I would've met you.
This bass almost reminds me a little bit of Wood by Alice in Chains. That's what it's reminiscent of.
They think that you're early ending. That's why I say, hey man, nice shot.
Okay, now they're bringing the aggression. Heck yeah. There's something just so incredibly eerie about this song, its tone. It's kind of reminded me a little bit of Passenger by Deftones in the style of it. It's got like this really minimalistic, pulled in, kind of tense atmosphere, and then that chorus comes in with such a punch.
That's why I say, hey man, nice shot.
His voice gets really growly here on this aggressive part too. It's really clear on those verses, and then when the impact of the chorus comes in, it takes on this kind of sludgier tone. Well, that was track 1, Hey Man, Nice Shot. Absolutely fantastic. That is right up my alley in terms of music that I generally am really drawn to. It had this really pulled in, kind of seething energy on those verses, and then when the chorus came in, it was like all of that energy was just released. It somehow had a really clean and streamlined tone to it, and yet it also had this sort of unpolished, really raw industrial quality to it as well. But I'm going to move on to track 2 now, which is called Dose. Yeah, there's definitely some distortion going on with the vocals. It has this slight sort of garbledness to it. And all these sounds from the guitars in the background, it's just really adding to that industrial nature of this band. It's got this sort of unpolishedness to it. That was track 2, Dose. I loved the guitars on that one. They were kind of bringing this sort of unpolishedness to that track, really leaning into that industrial element. And the vocals too kind of had this almost staticky quality to them, like they weren't quite clear. I was kind of enjoying that. It sort of had a muffled sound to it. But I'm going to move on to track 3, which is called Under.
I got empty point to make.
I liked that little echo they just did there on the vocals. There's something about this track, I think it's that percussion. It has a sort of hollowness to its sound. It's like this really heavy emptiness. That was certainly interesting. Those breaks they were taking just there with the song. That was track 3, Under. I liked how that one, they just built it up there at the end. It was like this rapid intensity just building up and up. There was sort of a desperation almost to the sound of that track, like with his vocal delivery. It was like he was desperately trying to grab hold of something. But really cool atmosphere with that song too, with that percussion and everything kind of bringing this really intense denseness almost to the sound of that track. It was just a really, really heavy song. Up next is track 4, which is called Spent. All right, sounds like someone leaving a voicemail. The suspense, they're just building it up. That little sound from the guitar right there, it's just little elements like that are making this album have such an unhinged quality. Now his voice sounds a little bit more faint, like it's kind of drifted into the background a bit. I just love how heavy and gnarly this song sounds. That was track 4, Spent. I really loved the tone of that one. That one definitely embraced the whole industrial sludge vibe with its sound. It kind of reminded me of Filth Pig by Ministry. It definitely had a similar quality to it. And the parts of that track with that voicemail being left, how it started and then they brought that back in toward the middle, was kind of bringing this sort of ominous tone to that track. It set a really cool atmosphere. But moving on to track 5 is Take Another. The growl he had in his voice when he said that word, someday. I like all of the snarliness and aggression. This song is definitely embracing a sort of speedy quality to it. It's a little bit less slowed down than like that last track was, for example. That was track 5, Take Another. That sludginess was still there, but it was kind of covered up a little bit more by like the faster tempo and everything, just bringing a little bit more speediness to that track. The instrumentals on this album though, I'm really, really loving. Like that bass, I keep picking up on that. It's bringing so much heaviness to its sound and it's really helping to pull this album down kind of into these more grungy industrial depths, which I really love. All right, moving on to track 6 is Stuck in Here.
Once again, I'm stuck in here.
Okay, a markedly different tone to this one.
They just closed the door.
There's this sort of crackly sound I'm picking up on that they're slowly bringing in.
Realize, oh, they just close your eyes. Oh no, I'm stuck in here.
There's almost this sort of monotone vocal delivery that he's doing. It's got this very like low-key sort of steadiness to it. That was track 6, Stuck in Here. A really soft acoustic one. It really surprised me actually because of how kind of gritty and intense the rest of this album has been. That one definitely brought a certain level of softness to this album. It sort of had this muffled staticiness going on with the audio though that I was picking up on. I thought it was cool how they were doing that. It was such a calm track, but there was still something kind of unsettling about it too. But moving on to track 7 is It's Over. love these sounds that they're doing with the instrumentals. You have this main sort of streamlined, clean sound going on, but then they're infusing on these really industrial tones too, which are bringing a sort of unpolishedness to it. Yeah, that sound right there. It's like this weird squeakiness. I really like how they do his vocals on that part. On the word cold, it just sounds really distorted. It's almost like he's sinking underwater. That was track 7, It's Over. One thing I'm really enjoying about Filter is their lead vocalist's tone of voice. It's very clean and clear. A lot of industrial bands have vocalists that bring a ton of grittiness and sort of a growliness to the vocals, and his voice is kind of a contrast sometimes with the instrumentals, which I really like. Again, it's kind of fusing that sort of modern streamlined quality with this really intense sort of muffled garbledness of the industrial side of their music. Alright, up next is track 8, which is called Gerbil. Again, that bass, it's always the bass for me. It brings such an amazing heaviness to this album. Those guitars are bringing a ton of intensity here on this chorus. And then they just pull it right back into that really restrained verse. I love the back and forth of that. Alright, we've got the sheet metal percussion. That's what I call it anyway. That's what it sounds like. Kind of a strange ambient ending to that one, but that was track 8, Gerbil. I loved the instrumentals across that whole thing. Those guitars just brought a ton of intensity on that chorus, but then when the verse came in, they just withdrew all of that, and you could just really hear that bass shining through. That dynamic I thought was fantastically done across that track. And again, with the atmosphere, they're just building these songs up. There's such a tension that they bring to their music. It's kind of creepy and a bit unsettling. And then all of that energy comes pouring in, and it's like this visceral intensity just coming at you. I love it. But I'm going to move on to track 9, which is called White Like That. Alright, some really heavily distorted background vocals. This song is so drawn out. Like, even the words he's saying, he's just stretching them out almost. It's like you're walking through quicksand. They're bringing that speediness back in now. That was track 9, White Like That. That one was really drawn out. I loved that little atmospheric bridge there toward the end too. There was like some talking going on in the background, and it was just really stripped back and minimalistic, and then they brought in that energy again. But just the way they were delivering the vocals and everything else on that one, it was just so big and open, and yet really slowed down too. It kind of pulled you down with how drawn out everything was. Alright, up next is track 10, which is Consider This. This song keeps introducing all of these layers. It's got a little bit less of that, like really heavy, slowed down sludginess that kind of pulls you down. They're bringing back the weird vocals again. I love this percussion. It's got a really big impact to its sound. That was track 10, Consider This. Kind of a depressive tone to that one, especially with the lyrics. You'd be better off if you were dead. It kind of brought this sort of despondency to it. Despite that, though, there was still this really rapid quickness to its delivery, a really clean speediness, if that makes sense. And like I mentioned, that percussion there toward the end was really standing out to me. It just had this really cool sort of hollow sound to it, sort of an echoiness. But I'm going to move on to the final song on Short Bus, which is track 11, called So Cool.
You got a bad old habit. You thought you were cool.
Some harmonizing going on with this one.
Hey, makes it alright.
It's so interesting. This acoustic guitar has a warmer tone to it, and then the percussive element they're using has this really clean, sort of sterile sound to it almost, like a coldness, and it's a really interesting contrast.
Did you have some fun? So cool.
There's almost a sort of orchestral quality here at the end going on. Well, that was track 11, So Cool. Certainly an unexpected ending for this album. I was kind of prepared for that track to bring a lot of punchiness and intensity to kind of finish this album out on like a really aggressive note, and we got the opposite. That one was really slowed down, very acoustic. I liked the harmonizing too going on. It sounded like there was a second vocalist at times, but yeah, such a gentleness to that one, and yet something a bit unsettling about it as well. Well, that concludes my reaction to Short Bus, the debut studio album from Filter. I thought this thing was fantastic. I loved the tone of it. It kind of fused this really heavy, sludgy industrial sound with this really clean, streamlined modern tone as well, and I thought Filter did a fantastic job fusing those two qualities. The opening track, Hey Man, Nice Shot, was such a fantastic introduction to this album. I love how they built it up so much into that chorus. And then track 4, Spent, had this really awesome atmospheric quality to it, how they used that voicemail. It kind of brought an eerie tone to that track. And another standout for me was track 8, Gerbil. The bass on that one just shone through so incredibly well on the verses when they would pull back all of that intensity and it got really restrained. But I thought this whole album was absolutely fantastic. Thank you all for suggesting Filter to me down in the comments, because I really love the tone of this band and I'm excited to hear more. And yeah, as usual, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.